We've muted your microphones for the duration of this webinar. Hello everyone, and welcome to our 8th live mobility webinar. My name is Chantelle Butcher and I'm a client account specialist at Relocation Africa since 2019. Before joining the team, I've worked extensively in the hospitality, cruise ship and events industry. My role in the relocation industry is an extension of my years of experience helping people from around the world. Being on the front line of the industry has provided me valuable information on the richness of cultures, languages, and diversities of people which the world has offered. The format of this webinar will be as follows. I will talk you through the various sections I've mentioned with accompanying slides. During this time, please feel free to type in any questions as you think of them into the message box. Rest assured, doing so will not create a disturbance. And then at the end of the webinar, I'll endeavor to answer as many of your questions as possible. This webinar is being recorded and a link to the replay will be shared with all registrants later this week. Just a further reminder to please note that we have muted everyone's microphones for the duration of the webinar. Perfect. So today's topic will be dealing with housing, schooling, and settling in Tunis, which is the capital of Tunisia. We will cover topics including expats life, popular expat areas, average rental price, leasing details, popular expat schools, and basically how utilities work. We'll start with the first one, expat life in Tunisia. The climate. The Republic of Tunisia is situated along the North African coastline, along the Mediterranean Sea. Tunisia is bordered by Algeria and Libya. The climate. The north of Tunisia experiences a Mediterranean climate with mild rainy winters and hot dry summers, whereas the south of Tunisia is desert and is actually part of the 11 countries that make up the Sahara Desert. So Tunisian temperatures range anything from approximately 33 degrees to 6 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit to 43 degrees Fahrenheit, depending where you are in the country. Accommodation. Suitable expat housing includes both houses and apartments. Some houses are located within secure estates or compounds, which are monitored by security guards and companies, but they're not actually largely available in the area. Schooling. There are 11 international schools in Tunis, offering education school options in English, French, and Arabic. These schools offer a variety of American, British, French, and local curriculum. We're going to move on to healthcare. So there's a variety of healthcare facilities ranging from state-run hospitals to local dispensaries to private and non-governmental clinics. Expats usually prefer private clinics, which offer a fair comfort and up-to-date medical equipment and facilities. Tunisian doctors have good reputations, and many of them have attended European medical schools. Shops. The majority of the shopping malls in Tunis, I'll just give you a map so you can have a reference. So this is where they're located. You'll see the details below. So the majority of the shopping malls are in Tunis. They are Zaire, Tunisia Mall, the City Mall, the Marsha, Azur City. Almost all Western items are available for purchase in these locations. Then if we look at culture, the culture of Tunisia is mixed due to its long-established history of outside influences from people such as the Phoenicians, the Romans, the Vandals, the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Turks, the Italians, the Spaniards, and the French, who basically all left their mark on the country. In general, people respect the Muslim tradition, which the Tunisian culture holds dear. The dress code for women in big cities is not very strict. Some will cover their hair and will wear more casual Western attire. It is, however, accepted for foreigners to dress casually, except in religious locations such as mosques. and holy sanctuaries. In these areas, foreigners are expected to dress modestly. It is, however, noted in rural areas of the city, it's better for women to actually cover their shoulders and their knees. Now we'll look at expat life in Tunisia. So hospitality, the local language is a Tunisian dialect, which is actually derived from Arabic. French, however, is also widely spoken due to the fact that the French colonized the country in the last century. Most Tunisians are Muslims. There are, however, different levels of practicing the religion depending on the individual and their family. Their levels vary from adhering to the rules strictly to having more of a casual approach. Foreigners, however, are not expected to follow the rules of the Islamic religion, but basically just respect them, especially in places of worship and during holy celebrations such as Ramadan and Eid. Greetings. The most common greeting in Tunisia is a handshake with a warm and welcoming smile. Handshakes are provided at the beginning and at the end of the meeting. Just smiling and showing sincere pleasure at meeting the person is important. It is, however, to be noted that observant Muslims will not greet or shake hands with members of the opposite sex. Money. The unit of currency is the Tunisian dinar. The easiest currencies to exchange in Tunisia is actually the US dollars and the euro. Foreign credit cards are not widely accepted, but can be used in high-end hotels and restaurants and in a majority of shopping malls. Banks are also open during the weekdays until 4 p.m. and will help exchange currencies. Some exchange offices are open all week, including weekends. These are available downtown and in Tunisian International Airport. Cash in particular is important to have to keep on hand to either help negotiate a purchase or a tricky situation. Transportation. In Tunisia, they drive on the right-hand side of the road. It's not recommended to use public transport, even though it is limited. Taxis are, however, widely available and affordable. Safety. In Tunisia, the crime rate is low, but you should always be vigilant and use common sense when meandering through the city. Visitors are advised to be vigilant and not to take unnecessary risks or tempt bystanders by exposing too much money, jewelry, or valuable items. It is advisable to keep a low profile and avoid any over displays of wealth. Always ask to take before taking a picture, and be careful when dealing with the military or the police of the city. At the airports, keep a constant eye on your baggage and don't act in a hurry. Petty thefts are the most common crimes, and cases should be reported, if only for insurance purposes. And then the Code of Tunisia defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman. Therefore, same-sex marriages or civil unions are not legally recognized in the country. Popular expat areas. The following slides, we're just going to explore some popular expat areas. They're between 5 to 20 kilometers from the central business district. We're just going to bring up the same map. So if we eliminate the schools and just bring up the suburbs, these are basically the areas that we're looking at. La Marchia, Gamath, Konath, Labers, and Al-Mizar. Apologies for the pronunciation. So a lot of these areas have high-end houses, apartments, residentials. A lot of them are close to shopping facilities, many restaurants, coffee shops. So they are actually very popular for expats to stay in. And then we're just going to change with regards to the average rental price. So we at Relocation Africa, we carry out a biannual housing to basically keep up to date with regards to the information and the current trends. So an example, we basically, if you look at the table, we look at a furnished and an unfurnished property. So for instance, If we look at a 2-bedroom property furnished, that's about 3,000 to 3,500 Tunisian dinar, which basically equates to about 1,060 and $1,236 per month, but per annum. And then basically, if we look at a 1-bedroom apartment, it's just to be noted that they're actually very few and far between, particularly in expat areas. Most apartment complexes are either 2 or 3 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms be more common, while 4 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms are not so common. So houses are normally unfurnished, but they do sometimes contain home appliances, which is defined as a cooker, refrigerator, air conditioner, washer, dryer, microwave, and these are often identified as semi-furnished. So, but it is also to be noted that most expats find suitable properties quite easy. It will obviously depend on their budget, location, size, and personal preference. Deposit is usually required between 1 to 2 months, 2 months beforehand to just secure the property. Perfect. And then a frequent question we obviously get asked is the estimate market value. Well, this actually depends on a couple of things. So it depends on who's involved in the lease negotiations and the approvals for payment. It's also not a lengthy process, but can be quick as to a week or to 10 days. Others can take longer and be up to like 6 weeks, depending on the client, the complicated vendor onboarding process, the lease renewal process, which will obviously delay the process. Current housing market, there's many properties on offer, but houses and apartments in public expat areas are obviously in high demand. The annual increase is anything between 5 to 10% per annum. Then we'll look at that. Now we're going to look at the lease information, the details that are actually required in the document. So rental contract registration fee, that's anything between 500 to 1,000 Tunisian dinar, and that's for the tenant's account, or as in our case, the assignee or expat. Legal fees are not applicable in Tunisia. The agent or broker's fee is 1 month rental plus 19% VAT from the landlord and the tenant. Deposit, as indicated previously, is 1 or 2 months. 1 month if it's unfurnished, 2 months if it is furnished. This will be for the tenant to pay. Rental escalation is about 5%. And then with withholding tax, it's a little bit more complicated. Theoretically, yes, but in most cases, it's actually not done in practice. So it is agreed at the start of the process, depending on the lease contract, has to be registered at the tax authorities or not. Rent that is reflected in the advertisements, so basically when you see them online, is always net of taxes, meaning that if the contract is required to be registered at the tax authorities, the tenant has to consider 15% on top of the rental price represented. However, in most cases, the landlord and the tenant will agree not to register the lease at tax authorities and therefore avoid paying the withholding tax. Tax control system in Tunisia is not very prominent, and 95% of lease contracts are actually not registered at the tax authorities. So the only cases where the leases are registered at the tax office is if the employing company of the assignee requires the lease to be registered at the tax authorities. And then just for the guys of the diplomatic clause, that's fine. That is available in, it is standard in the lease agreements. It also to be noted that leases are either in Arabic or French, but can be either a corporate lease, basically in the name of the employer, or a personal lease in the name of the employee. That rent is not VATable, neither is rented furniture. Service charges, that's not applicable. Utilities are not included in the rent. White goods, like indicated previously, these are only with properties that are furnished or partly furnished and these are identified as white goods, so cookers, refrigerators, washers, dryers, machines, microwaves, and air conditioners. Property tax, like indicated previously, that's 500 to 1,000 Tunisian dollars, and that's paid annually by the landlord and not charged to the tenant at all. This is just a reminder that if anybody has any questions based on what I've discussed to this point, please feel free to type them in the chat box so that I can address them at the end of the webinar. Now we're just going to have a look at some schools. I'm just going to bring up the same map. So I'm going to bring them up together with the popular suburbs and the schooling areas. As you see, there's a full list of international schools that we have available, and then the suburbs will obviously be, you'll see how close they are to those particular areas. So generally, expats will attend, their children will attend either a private school or international school. We'll have a look, like I said, we're just having a look at the map. The school is generally between 5 to 25 kilometers. It is, however, important to note that traveling may be impacted by choice of access routes and or traffic dams. So this needs to be taken into consideration when the expats are basically determining their route to work and back. A large number of the schools do actually have a French curriculum as well. Getting administration into the schools does vary. Some schools do have a waiting list. Most schools' applications are online, like in the Western world. And it also needs to be noted that some schools may require an entry test and an interview with the particular child. This will be obviously based on the particular school's discretion. School fees do vary on the year that the child is going to be enrolled in. They are paid in a local currency. However, a lot of the international schools do accept euros or dollars. So also on top of the basic school fees, expat parents will also need to budget for extra fees to be associated with textbooks, school uniforms, field trips, and anything additionally. And then in Tunisia, most schools do run from September to June. It's just a list of how they're classified towards the different countries, just so you can have a look at that. Now we're going to look at utilities. So the company in Tunisia that does the electricity is called STEC. It's the only service provider in the country. All houses and apartments have meters in the name of the landlord. And if the property is rented, the meter will stay in the name of the landlord. The duty of the tenants is to basically make payments to the electrical company based on bills they will receive every 2 months. Then we look at the water. The company which basically does the national water in Tunisia is Soned. It's the only service provider. It's spelled S-O-N-E-D-E. All houses and apartments have meters in the name of the landlord. And like with electricity, if the property is rented, it stays in the name of the landlord. Then tap water in Tunisia is suitable for drinking, but they do make mention to foreigners to strongly buy bottled water. So to basically only use the water for bathing, cooking, and washing. And the bill that you receive with regards to the water account will be received every 3 months and not like the electricity, which is every 2 months. Then if we look at waste works a little bit different. So the service charges that's paid up front to the tenant cover the disposal of the waste by the facility manager. So the duty of the tenant is to basically take the waste and put it in a designated area, and the city will collect it. Or they'll collect it from that point. In houses, it works the same. They have dedicated waste bins available in every street or area, and the local municipality will remove the waste from those collection points. The fee for the service is included in the annual property tax, which is paid by the landlord. Then if we look at gas is also STEC, which is the same company that does the electricity, which is also the only service provider in Tunisia. Gas is also charged on the same bill as the electrical bill, and it's only really used for cooking and heating. If the property is not connected to gas, it is possible to use gas cylinders. This should only be done for cooking. The heating system should be use other energy sources, so electricity or fuel. In this case, the tenants are responsible for purchasing their own gas cylinders and getting these filled up at the local gas station. Now we're going to talk about communication. So internet telephone. There's a single provider of the landline, which is Tunisian Telecom, which is a government-owned company. There are a couple of other providers such as TopNet, GlobalNet, Orange, etc. Usually the signee will need to subscribe to a landline first and then get an internet connection. But Tunisian Telecom does offer packages which allows you to do both and can speed up the process. Internet speed varies on the package selected and can also vary depending on the area where the property is located. Television. Most expats choose to subscribe to satellite TV or TV via the internet, IPTV, which will not require installation of a satellite if already in place. Both options offer a wide variety of channels at a reasonable cost, and that cost is about 60 Tunisian dollars, Tunisian dinar, and they exclude installation and a purchase of a decoder if it's not already installed. Now we look at local registrations. So local registrations, a work permit or a resident permit will be required for foreigners to live in Tunisia. This is registered at the local police office. This card is also renewed annually. Registration at home embassy is also recommended for expats. Registration for tax cannot be completed online. It has to be done in person at the tax office. Usually the employer will support with this. If not, an accountant or tax specialist can assist in filling in the tax declaration on a yearly basis. Expats don't need to register for Social Security or a local equivalent. Personal bank accounts and driver's license. Personal bank accounts will be opened in Tunisia once a residence permit has been obtained. This usually requires to open an account with the passport, the resident permit, passport photos, and the lease agreement. A visit to the bank is required for opening up the bank account. So all banks in Tunisia are generally good with a different product category. Some of the popular ones are IBAT, UIB, Citibank, or UBCI. Driver's license. So with the driver's license, foreign nationals are allowed to drive in Tunisia using their foreign license and an international license for a maximum of 1 year. All foreign driver's license must be accompanied with an international driver's license, which must be in English. After that, they will be required to obtain a local driver's license. Applications and payments for these licenses can be done in a designated service office downtown, and it can take about 1 month to get that license. As we're now reaching the end of the webinar, I'll shortly be answering any questions you may have. If you have yet to ask something, please type a question in for me, and I'll address one each individually. So basically, I'm hoping that we've covered a wide selection of information relating to relocation in Tunisia and Tunis in particular. For some questions which may require further detailed information, I'll be happy to refer them to our local consultant, the expert on the ground in Tunisia, who has assisted in making sure that all this information provided in the webinar is up to date and accurate. So a special shout out has to go to Sonia, who's our person on the ground. She's been absolutely amazing in providing such information. So if you have I'll just wait a few minutes just in regards to if anybody has any questions that they want to ask. If you can't think of any questions now, I've got our marketing website. Our email address is up. So if you think of anything, either later today or next week, or any particular time, just pop marketing@relocation.com and email, and we'll definitely get through to the specific questions that anybody might have. I'll just wait a few seconds. Fantastic. Thank you again for joining us today. Our next webinar will be relocating to Algeria. We'll be sending out invitations in due course. So within the next week, a recording of this webinar will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and you'll receive a direct link to the recording. Like always, please feel free to share this with any of your colleagues who might not be able to attend today. Likewise, if you think of any colleagues who might enjoy future webinars with us, please let us know, and we're welcome to request signing up by emailing us at marketing@relocation.com. Wishing you all a great remainder of the week ahead, and please be safe during this uncertain time. Goodbye for now.